So Helen is a newsreader. She's worked her way up. She started off, like they call them guns, which I think is kind of interesting. And also when you sort of understand that element of on-air journalism, you kind of like get a little bit more of an insight into the personality types too, that kind of make their way to the news desk, because you have to be, I call it a gun because it's like you have to be comfortable sticking a microphone in somebody's face and asking the hard questions, and through that, you end up on the desk. So she has achieved it. So we meet Helen, and actually it's one of my favourite moments. I'm like, I love that so much. Again, it's so dark just at the very beginning. It's like, oh, and you go, yeah, fuck that. I just got booted off the story that you promised me. So we meet her, she's like all calm and collected, and then bang into, why did I get this story? Then she's screamed at by her boss, she walks out, she just doesn't care. Like, I mean, she does care, but what can she do? You then kind of realise that she's been pushing and pushing and has been promised that she gets to do a story of her own choosing, once a week, which clearly just never kind of happens. And she's obviously been doing some research. I think we only look at one, but I think that she's probably got quite a few things that she's been sort of looking at. And the first story that she wants to, or that we hear about is, and I know that's not episode 1, is she's found this woman, very particular to the day, who's contracted HIV, but through a blood transfusion, and then unknowingly given it to her children while she was pregnant. But no one wants Helen to do that. So she storms out, and then, but she doesn't storm out just because of that. She storms out because of a couple of different things that have just been building and backing up, and then she's just absolutely screamed at and torn down in the middle of her workplace. Like, it's pretty tough to get over and told to fuck off, basically. And so she does, and that's when Dale and Helen end up, spending a little more time together. And then it is the Challenger, right? So I think Dale has been asked to fill in, so he's supposed to go and do the reports, and he has a bit of a failed attempt, and then the Challenger breaks. They can't get through to Jeff, and so, of course, Helen's a pro. Lindsay calls, and she comes in. And that's where she shines. It's breaking news, and you need to keep your cool, and not everybody has that skill set. It's like something that's been honed, and she definitely has it. Yeah, I mean, I think that they have this shared kind of joy, and I think that it's, they flip like throughout, even in scenes, like what the attitude is. Like, they feel like there's always, if one's down, the other can be up if the other's down. And I think that they also love what they do and love their work. And I think that, I think that's a nice opportunity. I mean, Helen's on a high because it's breaking news and she gets to cover it. But I think for Dale too, it's like there's a respect and an admiration there, especially having just had not such a great experience himself, that he's like, wow, people don't appreciate it unless they're in it, It's like your colleagues are the ones that it's lovely getting a compliment from them because they know what it really is. Don't we all have a public persona, and then, complex, emotions and drives and passions and desires and everything? That's kind of one of the things I think that, it's not on the head, but of course it's thematically there because we're doing a show about, news reading and the presentation when you're at the desk versus the shit show that happens behind. And I think that is, a little metaphor for people's life, like the mask that we all have to put on. Right. Yeah. But that's what makes good drama too, I think, is being able to watch the mask slip. That's the bit. The first thing was the creative team. Joe, who's our producer, and Emma, who is our director, I had worked with before on Secret City and had a really, really wonderfully beautiful experience with them. And then when I read the script, and I think I got the first 2 episodes, I was really interested and very, very much wanted to do it. I try and work in Australia. I think we make some really great stuff, and I love it's a different vibe. We do things quicker. There's like a little bit more of a visceral element to it, and yeah, and so I'm always happy to come home. I'm curious, to be fair. I'm really curious to see what the response is to her, and I'm curious to see what the response is to showing what it is to be a woman in the workforce in the 80s. And there's a couple of scenes and a couple of moments that I fought very hard for, and Emma did too, meaning we really didn't want to we wanted to show what it really was like without the judgment that we put on it today, you know. And I think that there's some elements that are quite shocking and also really true. I mean, there's a couple of sequences with Helen where you just go, she is just berated by these men who are her bosses, just one after the other, after the other, after the other, and most days she can take it, and then some days she can't. Like it's I mean, it still happens, but I don't want to go into that because it's such a touchy subject now, but it really does still happen. I mean, I've been screamed at work, like many times, and I didn't work in the 80s. The other scene, I mean, like a lot of the news stories, obviously, but that sort of, you know, the scene with Lindsay at Helen's house too, like just how normalised it is, how that just is clearly something that has happened before, would happen again, and isn't shocking in the context it is to us watching. It's ambiguous, and yet it's not, and I think that that's what it was, like all of that kind of stuff, and I'm talking specifically, you know, like reactions toward women or treatment of women in the world, that kind of thing. And I'm not rolling my eyes saying I'm bored of it, it's just, we're still talking about it. But yeah, because it's not overt, because it's not like, and that's how it was. It's like, it's just commonplace. Like, this is just how it is. It's not, there's not a big thing, it's never talked about again. It's not like even a deal, and that is the point. I'm really excited for people to see this show, like more so than a lot of other things I've worked on, actually. Primarily because I feel I feel like I was going to say ownership, and I guess maybe that is the right word. I had such an incredibly beautiful experience working with Emma and Sam on this. The energy between us just worked. Like, it very much like Helen and Dale. It was just, we hadn't sort of met, but it was just like, I always felt safe. There was always, everyone was always present, open, happy to try things. We'd do scenes and we'd do them from, you know, completely different perspectives, different ways, different levels, different this. It was like a real joy, like an absolute joy. And so when you work with people that you love, and when you work on something that I think it's interesting, I think it's smart, I think it's different, I think it's ambiguous, I don't think it's in your face, I think that there's currents in it, I think it's dark, I think it's funny, and I'm proud for it to go into the world, and I'm hopeful that it lands.